You know, there are days when I still wake up, and the first thing I hear isn't the birds or the coffee maker, but a sound like glass cracking, just one clean, sharp sound that tore a hole right through the middle of my life. That sound happened right outside the Federal Hall of Justice on a Tuesday morning, a place I used to think was sacred, a monument to law, order, and everything I'd dedicated 20 years to building. Turns out it was just another stage. I'm Elias Thorne. You might have heard the name. Maybe you know me as the former Attorney General, the guy who had it all and watched it burn. But before all that, I was just a dad. My girls, the twins, Cora and Phoebe, they were 17, identical in their brilliance, different in their fire. Cora was the quiet storm, the one who read law books for fun, always challenging the status quo. Phoebe was the sunshine, an artist, but with a fierce sense of right and wrong that would make you think twice before littering. They were supposed to be there that morning for a youth justice forum. Ironic, isn't it? They were there seeking justice, and instead, they found its razor edge. The call I got was clinical. Sterile, just an agent saying, "Sir, there's been an incident." I left my office, tie undone, running faster than I'd run in years. When I pushed through the crowd, the air was thick, not with blood yet, but with something colder, panic mixed with a sick kind of quiet. And then I saw them. Two girls in matching navy blazers lying in that perfect, terrible symmetry Phoebe used to arrange her art projects in. Blood, a thin red question mark, snaking across the pale marble steps. And 10 feet away, standing over them, was Officer Nolan Vance, gun still up, his eyes glassy, muttering some nonsense about them reaching for something. Nobody believed him, of course. Not the clerks clutching their lattes, not the tourists frozen mid-photo. Because the truth, the raw, brutal truth, was that Cora and Phoebe had just been helping an elderly woman, Mrs. Delgado, who'd tripped and spilled her belongings. They were being good citizens, and for that, Nolan Vance executed my daughters on the steps of my workplace. I remember falling to my knees. The suit, the polished shoes, the title, it all evaporated. I was just Elias, a father, pressing his hand against the wound in Phoebe's chest, trying to stop the blood that felt so warm and terrifyingly real. When the medics covered Cora's small body with a white sheet, that's when I broke. The wail that tore out of me wasn't the measured grief of a politician. It was raw, animal, and human. I looked up at Vance. He was still standing there, unmoving. "You," I whispered, the voice shaking but sharp as glass. "You shot my daughters." And he gave me the line that became the headline, "Sir, they fit the description." What description, Nolan? School uniform and brown skin? The surveillance footage, thank God for cell phones, instantly lit up the nation. But even before the outrage peaked, the machinery of the system started its grinding work. I heard the chatter, possible threat, unconfirmed report of stolen property. They were rewriting the script before the ambulance even hit the highway. They called them suspects before they called them students. They called it an incident instead of a murder. In the sterile whiteness of the hospital, with Phoebe barely clinging to life, I was fighting a war on two fronts, one against the monitors beeping and the other against my own people. My deputy, a good man named Benny, who suddenly looked very uncomfortable, started talking about optics and conflict of interest. They wanted me to recuse myself. They wanted silence. "If I step back," I told them, voice dangerously low, "it looks like surrender." And the White House staffer had the gall to tell me, "Sir, the president feels it's best if you look calm. The public needs calm, not vengeance." "Calm?" I wanted to scream. "My daughters were shot on the steps of the courthouse, and you want me to look calm?" I saw the truth then. The system I had trusted, the one I had sworn to defend, was never built to heal itself. It was built to protect itself. The real game changer came from an unexpected ally, an old friend, Detective Lena Chavez. She was always the straight arrow, the one cop who hadn't let the badge blind her. She came to me in civilian clothes, face etched with sleeplessness. "Elias," she said, "they're scrubbing the video logs." 3 minutes of crucial footage, deleted an hour after the incident. And the access code, it was routed through the DOJ network inside my own house. The rot went deeper than I thought, but the worst revelation, the one that cracked my foundation, was when Lena started tracing Nolan Vance's history. 3 prior shootings, all ruled justified, all unarmed victims. The reports were identical, boilerplate, word for word. It led us to a classified fund, buried deep in the federal budget, the Aegis Shield Initiative. It wasn't a department. It was a ghost fund designed to provide legal immunity and procedural shielding for officers in critical incidents. Lena looked at me, her eyes holding pity and horror. "Elias," she whispered, "the renewal order for this fund, the one that kept Nolan Vance clean enough to kill your girls. You signed it," I froze. That day, a blur of budget approvals, operational funding, routine procedure. I hadn't read the fine print. I hadn't questioned it. I built the damn shield that buried my daughters. That night, sitting alone in my office, staring at the framed Constitution, the symbol of everything I'd believed in, I realized my entire life had been a lie. "Justice doesn't die in darkness," I wrote in my private journal. "It dies in silence." That was the turning point. I called Benny the next morning, but not to resign. "Draft a full disclosure," I told him. "And then I want you to leak the unedited footage to the most aggressive journalist you can find. I won't let their story be written by men who've never bled for it." Benny paled, but he nodded. He was a good soldier, finally fighting the right war. But I knew I couldn't fight this from the inside. The day the footage hit the media, confirming that Cora and Phoebe were helping a woman, not robbing her, I walked onto the stage for a live press conference. I didn't have notes. I took off the DOJ lapel pin and placed it on the podium. I believed in a system, I told the nation, my voice steady, that promised justice, but demanded silence. I was wrong. I resigned my title, but not my fight. I cannot serve a structure so rigid in its fear that it cannot see innocence when it stands before it. The room exploded. But outside, for the first time, the sound of the protesters cheering my name felt like validation, not noise. The real hero, though, was Mrs. Delgado, the woman the girls had helped. She was just a janitor, scared and threatened, but she called Lena. We met in a dingy diner outside the city limits. "They were angels," she told Lena, tears running down her wrinkled face. "The officer." He didn't look at them. He was looking at a story that had already been written. Her testimony, simple, raw, and from a white witness, broke through the media's manufactured confusion like a hammer through glass. The pressure cooker finally blew during the national inquiry. I sat there, no longer the Attorney General, just the witness. Nolan Vance was there, pale, fidgeting, flanked by his union lawyers, whispering their usual corporate drivel. But Lena was the scalpel. She laid out the timeline, the deleted footage, the Aegis Shield cover-ups. Then she looked at Nolan and asked him the question the nation needed answered. "Officer Vance, why did you fire?" His lawyer jumped up with the usual objection, but Vance shook his head. He looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw not a monster, but a broken man built by a broken machine. "You want the truth?" he said, his voice cracking raw. "They told us to assume danger always. If something feels wrong, shoot first, debrief later." That's the phrase they used. They said hesitation kills, but they never said who it kills. That was the moment. The silence that followed wasn't manufactured. It was the sound of a system testifying against itself. The verdict didn't bring joy, but it brought relief. Nolan Vance convicted of manslaughter. But more importantly, the heads of the precinct, the architects of Aegis Shield, they were indicted for conspiracy and obstruction. And a year later, the Brooks Accountability Act passed. Independent civilian review for all police shootings involving minors. A small line of text, written in my daughter's blood. Phoebe survived. Thank God. She's quiet now, haunted. But she found a new voice, in her art. She painted the courthouse steps, not in white marble, but in shining gold. Like the building itself finally learned to reflect something purer than authority. The painting hangs in the Justice Hall lobby now, a daily reminder. And Cora, she's still with us too. Not physically, but in the foundation we built. When I talk about justice now, I don't use the measured language of a lawyer. I tell people that justice isn't blind. It just needs the courage to see. It's not a system, it's a choice. And it's a choice that starts with refusing to be silent. The fight isn't over. Not by a long shot, but the silence is gone. And that maybe is the real victory. What do you think? Where do you draw the line between following orders and doing what's right? Have you ever had to choose between your career and your conscience? Let me know in the comments below. Like this video if you believe the truth is worth fighting for, and subscribe to join the conversation. Until next time, keep demanding to see the gold.